Welcome to the International Student and Scholar Services Virtual Forum for International Student Parents and Families. We are so glad that you can join us this morning. We are going to cover several topics that we know parents have and families have asked us about. One, we are going to have a really great welcome from our Assistant Dean and Director, Dr. Barbara Kepler. We'll have our Boynton Health Services and Office of Student Health Benefits cover some information around healthcare. We'll have our Parent and Family Program staff, Megan O'Toole, cover information around the support provided for families. Then we'll do a question and answer period. There are two ways you can ask questions. One is in the chat, and one is in the Q&A section. The Q&A section gives you the opportunity to do anonymous questions. One thing I just want to clear up that this particular forum is just for University of Minnesota student parents and families. So without any delay, I would like to pass over to Dr. Barbara Kepler.
Thank you, Kabir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this session for parents of international students at the University of Minnesota. I am here, as are others from ISSS, representing International Student and Scholar Services. We are the unit at the University of Minnesota that works with all incoming international students, those that are here at the University of Minnesota on student visas. The role of our office is to provide advising, counseling, and programming for students to be connecting with one another while on campus and now virtually. Our office is here to support the students at the University of Minnesota. We want you to know that during this pandemic, we are striving to provide timely information. We continue to offer full services while working remotely. Minnesotans tend to be quite humble and understated in our accomplishments. But today I want you to know that I'm really proud of our leadership, both at the University of Minnesota with President Gable, as well as in our state with Governor Tim Walz. We believe they've done an incredible proactive approach to this virus. We designed today's session to address some of the most common questions and concerns that students and families have. And we look forward to providing this information to you today. We know that you're an important part of the student support. One common concern and challenge that has arisen in the United States is bias and racism. We deeply regret that in this time of a crisis, that some individuals in the United States are making biased and racist statements to Asians and Asian Americans. ISSS stands against this racism. We and others at the University of Minnesota want to make sure that you understand that this does not represent the majority of Americans in the United States or in the state of Minnesota. The values that we profess with ISSS and with the University of Minnesota are in support of our humanness and stand against these racist acts. We have provided information in support of students who experience bias, and that information in those websites and resources will be shared at the end of today's session. We do also have our leadership standing against these racist experiences. And today we want to share with you one message from our Dean, Meredith Mcclain, who is head of our global programs and Strategy Alliance. And now we'll play a portion of this video for you today.
Hello, students of the University of Minnesota. I'm Meredith Mcclain. I'm the Associate Vice President and Dean for International Programs for the University of Minnesota System. And I'm here today to tell you that I am very troubled and saddened to hear that members of our university community are experiencing bias and racism related to the COVID-19 outbreak, often because they are or appear to be Asian. I want to be clear that the university condemns all discriminatory behaviors, bias, and racism. This university is committed to creating an inclusive climate for every single one of our community members. I want you to know that we support you as members of our community, and we are here for you in this challenging time. If you believe that you are experiencing discrimination or bias, please contact the Bias Response and Referral Network, and you can do this anonymously if you wish. While the virus may have physically separated us for now, we must not let fear and misinformation separate us further. We really are stronger together, even when we're separated by physical distance. Please take good care of yourselves.
I now want to turn the program over to our collaborators in Boynton Health Services and turn things over to Songyang, Glenn Bates, and Greg Thurston. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. I'm Greg Thurston. I'm the Director of the Office of Student Health Benefits. I want to assure everybody that Boynton Health is working to keep patients safe during the coronavirus pandemic. For those of you who maybe don't know a whole lot about the state of Minnesota, Minnesota is a state of approximately 6 million people, and we are close to 1,500 miles away from New York, which New York is really where the largest outbreak of coronavirus exists in the United States. The state of Minnesota took measures quickly when the coronavirus broke out, really before most other areas in the United States, and was able to reduce the amount of COVID infections and ease the burden on the healthcare system. We're currently in the 4th week of the state of Minnesota's order to shelter in place, and that order is currently in effect until May 4th. So people are sheltering in place. There's very little movement within the state. People are maintaining social distancing as a way to prevent the spread of the COVID-19 virus. Yesterday, there were 19 deaths throughout the state of Minnesota's 6 million people. That number is expected to begin declining. It's also very important to note that the deaths that have occurred in Minnesota, over 2/3 of those have occurred in long-term care facilities. So essentially residential units for elderly citizens. And those individuals have tended to be over the age of 70 years. Boynton Health has implemented measures to keep patients safe. Everybody who comes into the building is scanned for COVID-19 symptoms. They're checked for cough, fever, shortness of breath before entering the building. Anyone who has those symptoms is taken to a negative pressure isolation room for further testing. The clinic has also greatly expanded its use of telemedicine so that many more patients can now receive services online and avoid the need to even come into the clinic. The urgent care does remain open to patients who are seriously ill, injured, or unstable. The pharmacy offers curbside pickup or mail order delivery of prescriptions. The eye clinic is open for emergency vision care and contact lens orders. The dental clinic is mostly closed. That is only open for emergency care, and then also has a phone line open to answer questions. And then the immunization and travel clinics are temporarily closed during the pandemic. Boynton also has additional services that are still available, things such as the Nutritious You food pantry for students who need groceries. Also, they have Recovery on Campus online meetings for students that need help with addiction. And then there is also online stress check-ins to provide opportunities to talk about stress in students' lives and come up with solutions and help them connect with campus resources. So that's a little update on Boynton. I'm going to turn it over now to Glenn, who's going to give us a quick update on the Student Health Benefit Plan.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning, and thanks again for joining us here. My name is Glenn. I am the International Scholar Processor with the Office of Student Health Benefits. I'm going to be touching on the coverage that is associated with the Student Health Benefit Plan, which our international students are covered by when they come here. There were some updates for the plan. Typically, students use Boynton Pharmacy as their primary source for medicine or prescriptions. With the pandemic and some students not being on campus, we have extended that to the Prime Therapeutics Network. So any in-network pharmacy that's even not within Minnesota, you can use your new medical card that should have been mailed to pick up prescriptions at these new locations. Regarding COVID specifically, testing that needs to be done or care, like inpatient or outpatient care, is now covered at no cost to students. So if you're having the actual COVID-19 test, that should be covered for you at no cost. If you are not able to get the official test, but it still has that COVID-19 diagnosis code, that should still be covered for you as well. And then I did mention the inpatient care, shouldn't have any issues with that also. So we are doing our best to make sure the insurance supports students who are on campus. If you have questions, you can always contact our office, the Office of Student Health Benefits, via email. And we also have a phone number, or we can contact you back to speak over the phone if that's easiest. I will now be turning it over to Megan to continue.
Great, thank you so much. My name is Megan Miller-Toole. I'm the director of the Parent and Family Program at the university and work within the Office for Student Affairs. As Barbara noted earlier, the family members of our students are a really important part of the support structure available to help them be successful. We really view family members as partners in this process. Because we value that partnership, it's important to us to provide families with helpful contextual information and resources. The Parent and Family Program emails updates to our family members about every other week during the academic year. And those emails provide information about campus activities, highlighted campus offices, and how and when to use the offices that we have. Also, we like to give families updates on possible stressors that our students might be facing so that they can support from their side. We are also always available to help you when you are trying to coach your student as they're trying to navigate and figure out how to solve a problem. Please remember that your student is getting a great deal of messaging from the university. That's both wonderful, and it can also be just a little bit overwhelming. Some of the key resources who are sending information include ISSS, our partners here today. The undergrad update is also an email that comes every other week and includes lots of great information. I would also like to highlight the website success.umn.edu and the online learning tips that are posted there. It may be helpful at this time to give your student a little bit of space as they navigate remote learning. This is a little bit like their experience beginning their very first year on campus again, but without all the fun activities that they had the opportunity to attend at that point in time. They're sometimes stressed, and you might be seeing it now from a different perspective than what you are used to seeing it, and seeing how they display that. Take some deep breaths, encourage them to take some deep breaths, and make it your goal to always try and help them de-escalate and take down the stress, as opposed to joining them in their frustrations as they navigate this. It's important to program is not an emergency resource, although we do try to respond very quickly, and that we help families to coach their student to advocate for themselves to solve problems. We also want to respect student privacy in that space, and we want to allow them to take the opportunity to make their own choices. Thanks so much. I'd like to introduce Hussein and Teresa.
Hi, my name is Hussein Bandy, and I am an advisor at ISSS. And I first want to start by saying that we at ISSS understand that this is a very stressful and it's an unprecedented time. And also want to make it very clear that we are here to support international students. All of the advisors and the rest of the ISSS staff are working our normal business hours remotely from home, and we are answering student questions every day. In terms of some broad questions that we have been receiving, in terms of your student's visa status and their I-20, as long as they're maintaining their full course of study, they can return home for the summer and the rest of the spring semester, and then their status would be active for them to return to the United States to study in the fall. If a student is living off campus and they're having any sort of issues with their landlord, they can work through Student Legal Services, and that is a resource on campus that provides legal support for students. For summer housing, it is typically that a 1-credit summer course registration is required, but there are exceptions that can be made for students to apply for. If your student is interested in living on campus in the summer, they should reach out to the residential and housing. If students have specific questions for ISSS, they can send us an email. There also is a form on our website for students to fill out, and they will be called by an ISSS advisor. We also want to acknowledge that this is a stressful time for students. Some common issues that international students have brought up is stress related to their academics and their distance learning classes, COVID-19, worrying about family and friends, and loneliness. We want to make sure that it's clear that both Student Counseling Services and Boynton Mental Health are providing counseling remotely. They also are hosting workshops to cope with stress and learning skills. ISSS advisors are also available for personal counseling for international students. And our advisors are here and willing to talk with students whenever we can, or whenever the students reach out to us. And then now I think we're going to be moving to the next section.
All right, thank you, Hussein. We are gonna start our question and answer portion of the forum, and just wanna kind of go over a little bit. There are 2 ways you can ask a question. One is use the chat function and the Q&A function as well. The Q&A function gives you the ability to ask an anonymous question. I want to also let you know that we won't be answering specific student related questions. You can definitely encourage your child to reach out to ISSS so we can help them individually. We'll do our best. And yeah, so we'll go over some of the questions we have already received. So we'll start with Boynton Health Services. So there was a question from a parent saying, my son will complete his their undergraduate degree in May and cannot come home. Will he get medical insurance if he continues to stay till mid-August?
Hi, Kabir. Yes, anybody who has the insurance for the spring semester, that insurance does run through, Glenn, you might have to help me with the date here. I think it's August 23rd. So it's towards the end of August. I believe it's August 23rd.
Yes, August 23rd.
Thank you.
Teresa, do you want to ask the next question?
Sure. The next question is fairly broad. It's just asking about travel restrictions generally.
That would be Hussein, or?
Yes, Hussein.
And you're muted, Hussein.
So in general, for travel restrictions, any news that is coming out, ISSS is distributing that to our students and then by proxy their families. So whenever there are any updates, ISSS will be providing them.
All right, thank you. This is for Dr. Barbara Kepler. There's a question about what will happen when the session ends in May. What is the possibility that the fall semester will start?
Thank you. Very important questions. Let me first address the fall question. President Gable has been providing updates to the campus as well as to our governing board of regents, and has announced that in June, the University of Minnesota will announce our plans for fall. So at this time, administration is working to determine what is the safest approach for the University of Minnesota this fall, and it is not yet known what the campus plans will be. For May, when the academic year ends and students have completed their finals, campus life will be different, but will be active this summer. And students will be making a variety of choices. Some may be able to leave campus and return home. Some will stay here. And as we've discussed, students can apply for on-campus housing. There is an increase in the number of courses to be offered online this summer. And there is significant campus discussion and planning for appropriate activities for students to keep connected and have an active summer here in Minnesota while staying safe.
All right, well, thank you. Teresa, do you want to go next?
Next question, Hussein, is have there been any F1 or H1B related changes during COVID-19?
Currently, there have been no changes to the F1 or H1B policy. Again, if there are any changes, ISSS will be distributing that information as soon as we have it. So it is very important that your student is signed up for the ISSS weekly update, and then you communicate with your student and find out if there are any changes.
Okay, great. This is a question for our counseling director, Dr. Elisa Elan. Can you tell us how ISSS will support students throughout the summer and fall?
Yes, thank you. Again, I'm Elisa Eland and from ISSS, and we provide support for international students and scholars year-round. International students and scholars are very important to us, and as it's already been said, we are providing our services remotely. So international students and scholars can go to our homepage, and there's a link to take you to a page to tell you how to get connected with our staff. And so you can make an appointment for a phone call or a video chat, or have an email exchange with an advisor or counselor. And we are supporting students on all kinds of issues. Hussein mentioned a number of things that students are reaching out to us about to get support. In addition to providing support, we can brainstorm ideas for how to move forward. Our staff have been working with international students and scholars for a long time, and are very, very experienced, very competent.
So the next question is an immigration-related question, and I'm going to actually try to answer this instead of asking Hussein. The question is about when will I-20s be issued to Indian students, and when will they be able to obtain their visas? Currently, because the mail service has been stopped, we are not sending I-20s either through express mail, US mail. There's not a way to send those I-20s at this time. Once the embassies begin accepting visa appointments, then we will resume sending those documents to students. And should a student be in a situation where it's very time sensitive, we are allowed to send the I-20 electronically, but we're only doing that in the case where the student has a time sensitive issue.
All right. Thank you. Elisa, this is a question for you. There is the $1,200 COVID aid. Are students entitled to that aid?
Yeah, thank you. So I believe that this question refers to the money that the US federal government is providing in response to the COVID situation. And so most F1 and J1 visa holders are not eligible for that aid, but there are some exceptions. It is related to your tax filings in the United States, and ISSS does not give individual tax advice. It's extremely complicated to give tax advice, and so we're not able to do that. But we have a couple of good resources for you that I'd recommend that your student take a look at. One is our website, and again, if you go to our homepage, there is a link on the homepage to our tax updates, and there's some helpful information there. We're just now updating our website about the stimulus money from the US government, and so if it's not there today, it will be there either later today or tomorrow. But that's a really good resource. And then international students and scholars can use Sprintax for free. It's a software that walks them through the tax process, and so that can help them determine what their tax filing status is.
All right, thank you.
Okay, this next question is for Hussein. How would the delay in graduation of graduate students due to the loss of research time impact their I-20 and their completion dates? Would they get an extension?
That is a great question. If a student needs to continue to work on their degree beyond the time allotted on their I-20, it is possible for them to apply for a program extension. And academic program extensions can be the easiest type of program extension. So what the student would need to do is get a letter from their advisor explaining the delay in their work. And I think that especially if it's COVID related, it is a very clear and easy letter for their advisor to write. They then would bring that letter to ISSS, and we would work with the student to extend their I-20 to whatever date their advisor has said would be their completion date.
All right. Now I want to turn to Megan O'Toole to cover a question about support for parents. Don't see Megan. There must have been a technical issue. But Elisa, would you mind covering just a bit about what kinds of support does the campus provide for parents?
Yes, for parents who have concerns about their student or about what's going on at the university, I'd really encourage you to contact Megan Miller-Toole's office directly. They are there specifically to serve parents, and they are a wonderful resource for you. As Megan mentioned earlier, you can sign up for the newsletter that comes from their office that goes out every 2 weeks, and it is full of really helpful information. So we have heard from parents how helpful it is to work with Megan and her office. So I really want to encourage you to contact Megan's office.
Thank you. Teresa, I think we'll take the couple of immigration questions that have come up in the chat.
Okay. One of the questions, Hussein, is a more general question about whether or not I-20s are being issued and how, and then also visas more generally, not specifically related to India.
And is this new I-20s or I-20s for current students?
I'm assuming that it's new I-20s.
Okay. Well, so two of our advisors have printing capabilities from home, and their primary job during this work from home time is printing I-20s. So we are generating new I-20s, and we're getting those sent out as soon as we can. In terms of getting visas and embassy closures, it is every country is going to be, or the US embassies in every country will be opening at different times depending on the situation in each individual country. So it's important that parents and their students are checking the embassy website as often as possible so that they can schedule the earliest appointment possible.
Thank you, Hussein. There are two other questions in the chat that aren't ones that I think we can answer online. Maybe we'll have to do some investigating of them. One is about GPA and how the SN grading will affect GPAs. I don't know if there's anyone who feels they're in a position to answer that. And then another question was more generally about how the pandemic is affecting students' abilities to get internships and the types of support that the university is able to provide. Elisa, I'm not sure if that's something you would like to speak on.
Barbara, were you going to take that first question, or?
For resources for SN, we will include information and links to University of Minnesota websites for students with detailed information about the SN policy.
Regarding the question about, Teresa, can you read the question again for me?
Yes, the question is, companies have stopped offering summer internships, and a few companies have taken back an internship that they already offered. What will be the impact of this on a student's career if he or she does not get a summer internship, and how is the university helping?
Yeah, this is, I understand this is such a stressful time for students in this situation. We've heard from many students that have either had internship offers or we're still looking for an internship. So I just want to acknowledge it's a very challenging time, and this does hit domestic students as well. So I just want to say a couple things. One is we are hearing from the career offices on campus that some companies are still offering internships. So if your student has lost their internship or wasn't able to find one yet, I would encourage them to contact their college career office. There's also some individual internship offices within the colleges. So I'd really encourage them to do that, to contact them and see what other possibilities there might be. I know that not everybody is going to find an internship, and I know it's a really difficult situation. And I think that I think the university will be working hard to help students with, you know, with this situation. But just to reiterate, the University of Minnesota does have an extensive career counseling program. Each college has their own counseling, or sorry, their own career program that's specifically tailored to students in their college. And so I'd highly recommend that your student contact their specific career office. If it's a graduate student, I still would encourage them to contact the career office, but a lot of the career offices, with some exceptions, are more geared toward undergraduates. So I really encourage graduate students to contact their academic department. Of course, be talking to their academic advisors, instructors, people they've worked with in research. This is a time to really use your networks and see if there's any possibilities through your networks.
Thank you, Elisa. Kabir, do you want to take the next question?
Kabir, you are muted.
There is a question in the chat which says, during summer, which physical activities would be available for students on campus? Gym, swimming, biking? And I'll just kind of answer that question. Right now, there is an order of shelter in place. And so currently the gym is unavailable and is closed down. So when things improve and when there is the order is lifted, then those services will be available with some guidelines. Now, in terms of biking, students can, of course, bike. There are many parks around campus by the river, and so that's available if you have your own bike. So anything to add, Elisa, on that, or?
No, I just would encourage people to get outside and, of course, keep physical distance. It's really important to both exercise and get fresh air.
All right, thank you.
This next question is for Hussein, and it says, if I take a semester gap year, do I have to renew my visa? And what would that process look like?
That's a great question. So if a student is going to be taking a semester off and return to their home country, or if you're already in your home country, stay, then ISSS would terminate the visa status for the reason of authorized early withdrawal. And I know the word terminate can sound a little intense, but in this case, it's just an official word, and having that reason of authorized early withdrawal means that it would not have any impact on future visa applications. Then when the student is ready to return to the University of Minnesota, they first would contact their academic advisor and they would get readmitted. Once that process is done, they will work with ISSS to get a new I-20. And then once the student receives the new I-20, they can pay the SEVIS fee again and then make an appointment with the embassy to get a new visa and then return 30 days before the semester that they're going to come back starts.
Thank you. Greg, this is a question for you. The question is, how many confirmed cases of COVID-19 are on the U of M campus?
Yeah, I just saw that question and I was trying to see if I could look it up. I can tell you that I personally am only aware of one university student, and I don't even know if that student was on campus or not. It might have been someone else. So I'm going to try and check and see if I can find that that information. I don't have it right at the top of my head.
Hussein, there's a follow-up question for you. How would the program extension impact OPT authorization in STEM fields?
As long as the student submits their paperwork and gets the program extension done before their I-20 expires, there is no impact on OPT or on the STEM OPT extension.
Barbara, this is a question for you. around an update on the SN grading?
I was able to identify the information on the Provost website, and it states that neither the S nor the N have an impact on the grade point average.
Thank you.
And Hussein, another immigration question. Once an undergraduate program is over in May, can the student continue to stay in F1 status even if he has not applied for OPT, but will be joining a graduate program in September?
That's another really great question. So when an F1 student completes their program of study, they're given a 60-day grace period. And that 60-day grace period is either for time to depart the US, apply for OPT, or start a new program of study, even if that program starts in the fall. So if the student will be attending a graduate program here at the University of Minnesota, they would need to submit a request for a new graduate level I-20 within that 60-day grace period. As long as they do that within the 60-day grace period, they can remain in the United States for the entire summer and then begin their program in the fall. If the student will be attending a different graduate institution than the University of Minnesota, they would need to work with an ISSS advisor to have their SEVIS record, that's their immigration record, transferred to that new school that they will be attending. And again, that transfer would have to happen within the 60-day grace period. If the transfer is initiated within that 60 days, the student can then remain in the United States for the duration of the summer.
Thank you.
Kabir, I can jump in here real quick.
Yes.
The question specifically was, how many COVID cases have there been on the U of M campus? While I don't have the numbers specific for the University of Minnesota campus, I do have for the entire Twin Cities area. So remember, the Twin Cities area is much bigger than the University of Minnesota. The Twin Cities area has something like 2.5 to 3 million people. And so for the whole Twin Cities area, there's been a total of 1,228 cases of COVID. And yesterday, for example, there were 38 in the entire Twin Cities area.
Thank you for that. There is another additional question for Megan. I know we covered some of the support that is provided for parents in terms of newsletters. Can you add some additional information?
Absolutely, thank you. In addition to what Elisa mentioned earlier, wanted to just give you all a little bit of context about how I work directly with families when you have questions. So probably one of the best reasons to reach out to me when you are trying to determine how to coach your student or how to help them solve a problem, or you're confused about how the university works, is that I may not have the answer to the question, but I'm going to know the best person to go to. So as opposed to you having to email 5 or 6 different places to get the answer you need, you can send me a message and I can connect with a colleague to make sure we're getting you the most concise and quickest answer possible with as little follow-up and as few messages as necessary. Families message me to connect about housing questions, to connect about questions in terms of instruction, questions about a student struggling to find where to go when they are trying to change their grade base or trying to access a resource for mental or physical health. So you can always feel free to message me. I won't tell you the details of your student's specific situation. Of course, we think about privacy of students, but I can always help you understand and lift the mystery of some of the university processes and try to make it as easy as possible so your student can get an answer as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
If an international student got COVID-19 confirmed. Oh, this is actually a question for Boynton. What kind of treatment is available for the international student?
Well, first of all, the great news is in Minnesota, we're not overwhelmed with COVID cases. And so in terms of ICU beds and things like that, if it was a severe case where people needed a ventilator or anything like that, we do not have a shortage of that in the Twin Cities area. In terms of the coverage under the plan normally would have 20% co-insurance that the person would have to pay. However, that has been waived by Blue Cross, the insurer. And so as of right now, if a person got COVID, any expenses related to COVID are covered at 100% by the plan. And that waiver or full coverage with no out-of-pocket cost for the student is good until May 31st. And then at that point, Blue Cross will look to determine whether they want to extend the full coverage with no cost sharing for the student.
Great. Teresa, do you have another immigration question?
I do not see another one. I do see a
Okay.
question about immunization.
Yeah, there is another, Greg, there is another question about immunization. Is it possible to have recommended vaccine on campus when an international student arrives?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not sure of that. I think we'd have to check with Boynton directly. It's unfortunate, I guess, that Dave's not at this meeting instead of me. Sorry.
I do know that there are recommended vaccines are available if students do not have any particular vaccines that are not available in their home country. So I know for a fact that Boynton provides those additional vaccines. So, all right. Well, I think we are done with the questions. And I just want to add that we have a frequently asked questions page on the ISSS, International Student and Scholar Services webpage that is updated on a regular basis. So feel free to refer to that. Feel free to reach out to all of our offices. We'll do our best to make sure that you get the answers you want. In terms of just another additional point that Megan said is that please encourage your students to really advocate for themselves as well. So, but we are here for them. I want to turn over to Dr. Barbara Kepler to close us out today.
Thank you, Kabir. We really appreciate you joining us today. And I know that we can't all see each other, but if we could all collectively thank our expert panelists here today, I think you can see the depth of their knowledge and experience as well as their concern for all students. So thank you all very much for your expertise and your dedication here as panelists today. As we close out this session, I want to express a few reminders. First of all, none of us have been through this pandemic before. We are all learning as we go through this. Certainly the types of disruptions and challenges encountered by students are new and are constantly evolving. And as a result, we strongly encourage students to be connected with one another, certainly to be reaching out to ISSS specifically regarding immigration questions. And we'll have a lot more information as we get closer to summer about summer activities and ways to stay connected. and engaged in the outdoors. Minnesota, the good thing is we are not an overpopulated state. There's a lot of room for social distancing while outside. There are many things that can be done in this state during the wonderful summer months. We know that stress and loneliness have dramatically increased during this time, of course, and we're here for students. We encourage students to reach out to us and stay connected. Also, as has been mentioned as a resource, and that I want to highlight, that Boynton continues to be offering medical services, and students should be calling the nurse line just as they would have before for questions about colds or fevers or any of the everyday types of illnesses that can be encountered, so that students can continue to maintain strong health. We want to also recognize that the information that we are providing to you is University of Minnesota specific, and that friends and family members at other institutions, please have them contact their international student office directly. Again, we thank you for being with us today. We appreciate your trust in us and the University of Minnesota and the state of Minnesota in how we are managing this crisis. And we look forward to continued connections with you all. Thank you.